Hi friends, this is Caitlin. Today I am with you to create a mini slimline Christmas shaker card. This one's going to be super fun, and today we're going to be pairing up the Just Sentiments Christmas stamp set that came out last year. We're going to be using these on the inside and outside of our card today. I'm going to be pulling some of these smaller elements from the Ugly Sweater stamp set, which just came out with the most previous release. We're going to be tying in the Berry Bright sequin mix as our shaker mix. I love the colors in this. They're so beautiful. We're going to be good for the planet and reuse some plastic packaging from another stamp set. And then I'm bringing in the Macaroon stamp set just to change these up. I believe originally these were created more with a Valentine's Day or birthday theme in mind, but we are going to Christmasify them. And then of course I have some green cardstock, some craft, and then my white paper that I prefer to color on. So I'm trimming down my green to create my card base. So that is going to be 6 inches by 7, and we're going to score it down the middle. And then I have 2 of these smaller panels that I cut out of the craft. I believe it is 5.5 by 3 inches, so that we have a nice little border, and one is going to go on the inside and the other is going to be what we build our shaker panel on. So to get the inside of our card taken care of, I just flipped my card inside out for a second, and I'm going to be taking my sentiment and lining it up on the inner part. I like to put my sentiments, especially for like holiday cards, a little higher up on the inside so I have plenty of room to write my own handwritten message and make sure everyone in my family can sign. I do have younger kids, and so some of their signatures are a little bigger than mine. So I'm just measuring out, making sure that my sentiment that's going on the front of my card is high enough up that it's not going to get covered up by our main featured macarons. And so I stamped that in place, and now I am stamping my 2 pieces that I'm going to be coloring. So we're going to kind of create a backwards L on the front of our shaker panel with this stack of macaron and then the single. Now to create my own custom pattern paper, I'm taking the little candy cane and the 2 different size stars from the Ugly Sweater stamp set, and I am just hand stamping those with an acrylic block. I guess it's a block. It's one of those thin ones, but I really love doing this. I think it's a really fun way to make something custom. The trick for me is to make sure that I'm spinning my paper around and that I'm also stamping some of my images off the edge of the paper. So that's what you can see me doing there, is just using that scrap like edge of the paper underneath to make sure I'm not getting ink all over my desk. So I just stamped that up in a red ink, made sure that I liked how it was looking with our green background, and now we are going to jump into my Copic coloring. I'm going to be coloring the stacked image first, and I'm going to be using the same colors for everything. So I'm only going to show you the first 2 and then that whole macaron down at the bottom. If I'm not pronouncing that right, you're just going to have to bear with me. I'm pretty sure I saw on a TV baking show, though, that that's how you're supposed to say it, versus like macaroons, I think, are like the coconut ones. I don't know. They're delicious, I can tell you that. So I'm going in now with my darkest marker, that R89, and then my medium shade, which is the R39, to start blending that out. I'm keeping all of my shadows on the outside of the tops, and then kind of tucked under the like lip or edge that's kind of created on these little cookies. And then going in with the R29, and then just the tiniest little touch of R27. You could definitely skip that part. I just really love how Christmassy and bright the 27 helps to make everything feel. So then for the cream in the center, I decided to give it kind of a peppermint look, and so, or like a candy cane, I guess. So I went in with some warm grays and some very light toned e-markers just to give it a little warmth and a little shading so it didn't look too plain or like it was forgotten. And then once those colors dry, I'm going to go back in and just add a tiny little dots of the R27, so it looks like little candy cane pieces or sprinkles or something kind of broken up inside that filling. So I am shading in the second one, and then we are going to jump to the full one. And I wanted to be sure to show you that because, you know, the shading is a little bit different I didn't go crazy worrying about the ribbon on that stack as far as the shadow that the ribbon would create. But I definitely thought it would be nice for you to see, you know, the pieced ones and then the whole one as well. So all in all, this card was pretty quick for me. Normally my cards take me anywhere from 45 minutes to about an hour and a half. And this card I was able to get completed in about 40 minutes. So if you didn't go so crazy on the coloring, or, I mean, I had a plan, but it wasn't, you know, fully planned out. I still like to kind of improv as I go. If you knew exactly what you were doing, you could definitely get this card done quick. And now that we are approaching, you know, go time for our Christmas and holiday cards, I know that is definitely something to consider. That's also why I wanted to tie in some stamp sets that aren't necessarily Christmas specific. So if you don't have time to worry about shipping, but maybe you have, you know, the Macaroons stamp set and you just haven't thought to use it for a Christmas card, maybe this will inspire you to, you know, try something different. So there you go. I'm coloring that big whole one. I love how beautiful that looks. Doing the same things with the insides, and then I decided my ribbon was too plain, and so I went in with that R29 and I'm just adding stripes. And the thing is, when you get to the bow, you want to make sure that you're curving your lines in the same kind of shape that the upper part of the bow is, so that you get that idea of the ribbon being kind of curved and 3D. Your stripes would follow that pattern, that movement. They wouldn't just be in a straight line across if it was really fabric. So just the little extra details to kind of consider when you're coloring them up. Then I grabbed this G07, which I thought was a pretty close match to my green cardstock, and I'm adding a thin line right in between just to make sure that this looks super Christmassy. And now I'm using my coordinating dies to cut these two out. I just find that when I'm doing elements on my shaker cards that I do really like having that little bit of white border to help them pop up against the plastic shaker panel. So speaking of, we're going to start assembling our card now. So the first thing I need to do is break my packaging down. I'm going to peel the front from the back and trim off the tab at the top, and I'm going to trim just a little bit from the one side to make sure that my flaps aren't too long and too bulky when I start to fold everything over. So I'm going in with some tape runner. You could use like a double-sided tape or a tear tape or something like that, whatever you prefer, but I would not recommend liquid tape or liquid tape. Glue. I wouldn't recommend glue. It's just going to take too long to dry and slide around on you. So you're just going to do 3 sides folded over, and I like to trim off the extra packaging from the corners. Now I'm going to fill up my shaker with that Berry Bright sequin mix, and because the cookies take up so much space at the bottom, I really wanted the shaker to be nice and full so that you really see the sequins and they are very impactful around all of that dramatic red coloring we did. So I kind of took my time shaking these around, adding more until I felt like there was a good balance. And then you just tape and seal up that last side and go ahead and trim off those corners as well, just to help with the bulk when you're adhering them down. And I'm using the same tape runner to adhere my little shaker panel right to my card base. I do like to stand up when I do this step because it just makes me so nervous that it's not going to be straight, and these are not fun to try to remove. So now it's time to add in our little elements. Same thing, liquid glue slides around on the plastic packaging a little bit too much for me, so I'm going in with a tape runner again. You could also use foam tape for this if you prefer, for even more dimension. And I'm just adding those on and pressing them down really firmly, giving it a good practice shake to make sure that I love how it looks, and good news, I do. So I hope that you are feeling inspired to have fun. Don't be afraid to take a little extra time and create something you truly love. Make sure that you're checking out the Possum Stamps Instagram and checking back here regularly for even more crafty inspiration. Thank you again so much for being here with me today. I hope you have an amazing day, and as always, happy crafting.